Well, there's something I picked from you yesterday because I watched you keenly, and you said economic clusters. We can also create economic clusters, and you said this can be created within a distribution company. Tell us more on that, because you also mentioned, for instance, the Agbara estate and so many other estates that can be classified under such clusters you are trying to propound. Tell us more.
Yes, well, the economic cluster is a way that, I mean, we had proposed that is what should be done, except each one will be a little larger. Like Lagos itself could be a cluster under federal government. But then within a distribution company, you can still have clusters. The goal is to have an area where you can quickly achieve power reliability and efficiency. And with that, it becomes possible for you to have a number of clusters within a distribution area. And people there will feel comfort. They will pay, they don't have to pay anything really much more. I believe the regulatory commission would support that kind of, those kind of clusters. And you can have them throughout Nigeria and more reliable areas for power delivery. I sincerely believe in that. And I use our bars as an example of that, because that's what we have gone to do now.
And let me take a quote from you. You said the concept or idea that the federal government owns everything is wrong.
Well, federal government no longer owns everything. And that was the goal of the president and this government, and I believe in that. That is for government to remove government's hand.
Completely.
Well, almost completely, because except for transmission. Okay. In transmission, government shouldn't be the manager of it, but the government should be the owner of it because of open access issues. So that you have, in fact, when I look at transmission, you have various levels in my conception. You have the super grid, then you have the current grid that we have, super grid, 765 kV, then you have the 330 kV, which is what the highest level grid that we have now. All those, I believe, should be for open access and owned by federal government, but private sector managed.
But the problem now, how can
or
the
even
states,
concessions.
How can the states exert their influence in this?
Okay. There is 132 kV network, which is still now actually owned by the transmission company of Nigeria, so under federal government. I think that they should be regional, and the regulatory commission can do something about that, so that in places, Lagos is a small place in comparison to some other distribution companies that run hundreds of kilometers. If you want to transmit power across, you should have, as a distribution company, capacity to use such a network. 132 kV, 33 kV, and 11 kV networks should be for distribution company.
What can we do on a short-term basis? Because I think, if I remember, you talked about this embedded solution on a short-term basis. What does that entail?
Oh, embedded solution is that the distribution company here can actually join with an IPP to build a power plant that serves only the distribution company and no other. It doesn't actually serve the national grid. Not that it's not connected to national grid, but it serves only the local environment. And this way you also minimize losses from that power plant.
Tell us about pricing. I mean, do you think that it should be regulated? Because so far so good. What we seem to be seeing is a contention between the new owners, the NERC, and consumers on the other hand. Because right now, the new owners are saying the price is not realistic. We cannot make much from this. The consumers are saying, give us electricity first before we even talk about whether or not we should increase the price. Where do you stand in all of this?
Our calculation earlier when we lifted the tariff was that the tariff, to the point where it was lifted, was cost reflective. Now, if some other costs have come to bear, I wouldn't know. That's making the distribution companies to want to charge more. But cost-reflective tariff is a critical element to success of generation companies, distribution companies. You have to look at the entire value chain, and that the entire value chain should be incentivized to perform. You should be able to, the distribution companies should be able to collect enough from the consumers to pay for power. Power companies should be able to pay for fuel they purchase. And wherever there is some weakness, then the entire system collapses. So that is why the cost-reflective tariff. But whatever that figure is what the Regulatory Commission must determine, and in collaboration with the public. But you have to, because you have to listen to the public, what they're saying. But the idea of power first before tariff, which is the chicken or egg situation, is something that I think that the public has done very well in Nigeria by accepting to have the tariff lifted. But I think that Regulatory Commission has to do something about having managing expectation of the new companies.
Because the metering is not even available. Yes.
It has to begin to be available. That has to be done.
What do you think were the other challenges? I mean, from your own experience, because this has been there for quite a while, the issue of prepaid meters and, ensuring the consumers only pay for what they use.
The prepaid meters are so essential. I think there is usually the tendency for distribution companies not to want to install prepaid meters so that they will continue to have estimated billing. But that has to be, I think the Regulatory Commission has to do something about getting them out of that. But it's in time. It costs a lot of money to install these prepaid meters, but must be there.
Another issue that comes up is also the issue of, gas and vandalism. In your own experience, what do you think, or from coming from your experience, what do you think can be done? I'm sure you've seen what has happened in other countries or what is happening there, and compared it with our experience here, I don't know whether vandalism is on the rise, but from what we feel in our homes and offices or anything to go by in the sense of an increasing cost of power, it would seem that we don't seem to be getting a hold of attacking vandalism head on. Maybe
what you said, having a plan to address the vandalism. But also the vandals are not thinking about who they are attacking. See, now they used to think that they are attacking government asset. But the pipeline may be government asset, but the supply is no longer going to a government power plant, but to a private sector power plant. Unless we decide that we are going to be attacking the public directly. That is, those who are doing this may be attacking the public directly, because they're not attacking the government. Because the whole idea before was that they are angry at government and so on and so forth. But that's not the situation. But a plan to monitor the lines, very, very critical, and ensure that the critical lines like the Escravos Lagos pipeline be properly monitored.
Is it impossible?
Okay.
Is it impossible?
Is it possible?
Is it impossible?
It's not impossible at all. I mean, it's not impossible. You can use technology, you can use devices.
Because I'm sure she's asking that question, knowing full well that we know that this is so important to us as a nation.
Yeah.
I think what worries some Nigerians is even going to some of the companies, and you even find them in darkness, and you're amazed if you're supposed to give me electricity and you also you're in the dark, and you say it's as a result of some vandals why can't we actually bring the security on those lines and see how we can monitor them? It's quite important.
Yeah. I mean, it just is about finding, getting a plan and the technology. I believe that you can use technology to do this. There's just no question about it. Because it is saddening to see that we have this solution, which is that we have gas that can fuel the power plants, but we are not able to get the gas there. Plus also investment. We should not forget about investment in the infrastructure itself, plus also in production of gas. So there are three things: investment in infrastructure, investment in gas production, and also being able to secure the infrastructure.